Welcome to Kaywon Action Star, and it's good to have you back
He
here.
called me a whore.
Watch this.
She a good kisser?
Hey, outside.
Sandy?
What?
The story kicks off in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where a man in a van pulls into a parking garage near PNC Park. After paying for parking, he calmly assembles a sniper rifle and begins taking random shots at people along the North Shore Trail. 5 individuals fall before he makes his escape in the same van. Detective Emerson and his team arrive at the scene to piece together the clues. They find a spent shell casing in the parking meter and run its fingerprint, which leads them directly to James Barr, a former U.S. Army sniper. The cops raid Barr's home and hit the jackpot, discovering his van, bullet-making equipment, sniper rifle, and Barr himself. He is arrested on the spot. During interrogation, Emerson and District Attorney Alex Rodan present Barr with 2 choices: confess and get life in prison, or fight the charges and face execution. Instead of responding to the charges, Barr writes 4 words: "Get Jack Reacher." Emerson explains that Reacher is a former military police officer, a top-tier investigator with multiple awards, who walked away from the Army and vanished. No home, no credit cards, no phone. Tracking him down seems impossible. But then, out of nowhere, Reacher shows up at the DA's office just as Rodan and Emerson are discussing him. Rodan refuses to let Reacher look at the case but does allow him to visit Barr, who has been badly beaten by inmates during transport and is now in a coma. At the hospital, Reacher meets Barr's lawyer, Helen Rodan, the DA's daughter, who is determined to keep Barr from getting the death penalty. Reacher makes it clear that he is not here to help Barr and does not understand why Barr specifically asked for him. Helen offers him access to the evidence if he agrees to be her lead investigator. Reacher turns her down, stating that Barr is a cold-blooded killer. He explains that when Barr was stationed in Iraq, he desperately wanted to kill, but since he never received orders to shoot, he returned home frustrated. One day, he snapped and went on a killing spree, targeting men who were later discovered to have committed serious crimes. Since the victims were criminals, the Army covered up the killings, and Barr walked free. Reacher had promised himself that if Barr ever killed again, he would take him down. Now that it seems Barr has done just that, Reacher is puzzled. Why would Barr ask for him, knowing Reacher would want justice, not to help him? Helen agrees to let Reacher investigate, but he insists she visit the victims' families to understand who they were. Helen's efforts take a dark turn when a grieving relative threatens her. Her father scolds her for taking on a dangerous, unwinnable case. Meanwhile, Reacher inspects the crime scene, unaware that a man in a car is watching him while holding a file on Reacher. At the scene, Reacher notices something off. The best sniping spot would have been from Fort Bainbridge, not the parking garage. Something doesn't add up. Later, he meets with Emerson to review the rifle evidence. Emerson is impressed when Reacher recites the weapon's serial number from memory. Reacher starts questioning why a trained sniper like Barr would do something as foolish as paying for parking before randomly killing strangers. That night, Reacher stops at a bar for a meal. A young woman named Sandy approaches him, but when he calls her out as a prostitute, she gets offended. Soon after, her boyfriend and his crew show up, itching for a fight. Reacher warns them to back off, but they ignore him, so he takes them all down with ease. Strangely, the cops arrive almost immediately and arrest him. Helen bails him out, and Reacher realizes this wasn't just a bar fight, it was a setup meant to scare him off the case. Someone wants him to walk away. Meanwhile, the man tailing Reacher is revealed to be Linsky, who meets with Charlie, the real shooter from the opening scene, and their boss, a mysterious figure known as the Zek. Linsky admits he hired goons to mess with Reacher and also confesses to killing one of them, Jeb, because Jeb recognized him. The Zek, unimpressed with Linsky's mistakes, orders him to bite off his own thumbs as punishment. When Linsky hesitates, Charlie doesn't give him a second chance, he executes him on the spot. The next day, Reacher tracks Sandy down at her job in an auto parts store. She confesses she was pressured into approaching him at the bar by Jeb. Feeling bad for her, Reacher suggests she lay low and leave town. Borrowing her car, he heads to Jeb's house to investigate. As soon as he steps inside, he is ambushed by Jeb's friends, but he manages to take them down. Interrogating one of them, he learns Jeb has been missing for days, confirming his suspicion that Jeb is already dead. Reacher updates Helen on his findings and starts to believe Barr may have been framed. The only evidence linking Barr to the crime scene is the fingerprint on the parking meter coin. Reacher figures Barr asked for his help not because they were friends but because he trusted Reacher to uncover the truth, even if Reacher initially believed him guilty. Reacher theorizes that the Russian mob planted Barr's fingerprints and DNA on the evidence to frame him. He also notices a car tailing him since he started investigating. Running a background check, he discovers it is registered to a shell company controlled by the Russian mob. It turns out the mob had been trying to buy a construction company to expand their legitimate operations, but the owner refused and even took legal action against them. Reacher deduces that the mob orchestrated the owner's murder, making it look like part of a random shooting spree by killing 4 other people to mask the true motive. Meanwhile, Charlie and his gang track down Sandy and kill her, framing Reacher for her murder. Following a lead, Reacher travels to Ohio to visit a shooting range owned by a former Marine named Cash. Cash is reluctant to talk, but after Reacher proves his shooting skills, Cash finally opens up. He tells Reacher that James Barr was once his best marksman, capable of hitting bullseyes from 700 yards. However, Reacher remains unconvinced, arguing that Barr never demonstrated that level of skill in the Army. He suspects someone tampered with Barr's target sheets to make him seem more competent. Surveillance footage later confirms this. Barr was frequently seen with a man Reacher recognizes as a member of the Russian mob. The real masterminds behind the plot are Russian mobsters posing as businessmen, led by an ex-Soviet Gulag inmate known only as the Zek. They have a corrupt detective, Emerson, on their payroll, keeping them one step ahead. The mob eventually kidnaps Helen, holding her hostage at a construction site. With sniper backup from Cash, Reacher eliminates the guards one by one. He then confronts Charlie, challenging him to a hand-to-hand fight. Using superior combat skills, Reacher easily takes him down. When he finally faces Emerson, Reacher reveals that the biggest clue exposing his involvement was the parking meter, something only an insider would have manipulated. Reacher rescues Helen with precise shooting, killing Emerson in the process. He then confronts the Zek, who smugly claims that with all his accomplices dead, there are no remaining witnesses against him. He taunts Reacher, implying that, as a drifter accused of murder, he is more likely to end up in jail than the Zek himself. Without hesitation, Reacher shoots the Zek in the head, ending his schemes. Confident that Helen will clear his name, Reacher leaves the scene with Cash, knowing he is now a wanted man. When James Barr finally wakes from his coma, he tells Helen he has no memory of what happened. However, convinced of his own guilt, he mentally reconstructs how he would have committed the crime. His imagined version of events perfectly aligns with Reacher's original theory, which Helen later explains to her father. Oblivious to all these developments, Barr still believes he must be guilty and is ready to confess, fearing that if the justice system fails, Reacher will take matters into his own hands. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more if you haven't done that. Put down your comments below to let me know what you think about the turn of events in this storyline. Also give my video a thumbs up to further motivate me, and share too for others to enjoy. See you on my next recap. Cheers.